Welcome to the School of Risk podcast, where we have insightful, valuable, and sometimes intense conversations on the various dynamics of risk in life and business. My guest on the show today is Estella Malek. I'm going to let her do her own introduction and get to find out this phenomenal woman who's doing some really amazing things in her life and also changing the lives of other people as well. Now, without further ado and without wasting more time, you know what time it is. Let's go to school. Estella Malek, welcome to the School of Risk podcast. It's so amazing to have you here. I can't wait to get into this conversation. First thing I would like you to do, please, is let our listeners know who you are and what you do, and we'll build the conversation so they can enjoy this insightful and valuable, information you're going to share with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Estella Malek, and I'm South Sudanese, and I'm a journalist by profession. Though I'm not active right now, I'm not actively working as a journalist, and I'm 30 years of age. So I had my education. I studied in Malaysia and in China, and I have practiced in the media in China and locally, and then came back home, and now I'm an entrepreneur.
That is amazing. Do you know you're the first person on this show who has said their age?
Well, I don't know how it came this movie.
I don't mind it, seriously. And also, is this saying, a lot of women are very shy about saying how old they are. Well, you just went straight into it. And
well, I've always thought whether I lie or not, it doesn't change. It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. And I'm proud to be 30. Not a lot of people get to my age. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And as they say, age is nothing but a number. Exactly.
Well, that's how people console themselves.
Well, I'm 49, so hey, that's me. And I was talking to some guy yesterday, and I told him how old I was, and he was like, "Whoa, you look like you're 20." I'm like, "Stop saying that now. Listen, look at the beard, man. Look at the beard."
Oh, there's a lot of people who are still in their early adulthood, and they have white beards. I don't know. This is just something about the beards.
Something has changed. Boys in the 20s, and they're gray already.
Yeah, no, like, okay, early 30s, I think.
Yeah.
But then there's this something, they'll have like patches of white on their beards. Yes, so it still doesn't say much.
Okay, I'll change my age then. I'm 31. Yeah, so that's amazing. So journalism, and you spent some time in China, Malaysia, and now you're back in South Sudan.
Yeah.
Why the transition?
Well, first of all, this is home. So for me, it's not a transition. It's like coming back to where I belong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many luxuries and benefits that come with being abroad, but it's just not the same as being home. So I had to come back one way or the other. I was there for an education, and I finished it, and I had to come back home and implement it here.
That's amazing. Now, talk us through your experience as a journalist. What work did you do? Did you work as a journalist while in Malaysia, China? Yeah. Or you did that in South Sudan? Let our listeners know, because obviously you made that transition to, from journalism to entrepreneurship. Yes, exactly. So let's build on that.
Okay. So I first worked in South Sudan. That's before the 2013 conflict.
Right.
And when the conflict started, I decided to go back, and then I knew that I was passionate about journalism, and I decided to go back and do it. And so I went to do my bachelor's degree in Malaysia.
Okay.
After which I came back here, did a bit of work, and then went back for my master's. And while I was doing my master's, I was working for Star Times at the headquarters in Beijing.
Okay.
So I was in charge of an entertainment show called the E-Series that is aired in Africa and also in China, but at a controlled space. And then when I came back here, I tried the media a little bit, but then I realized that I was not going to work well in it because of the control. And I feel like I don't work well within a box. I have to work out of the box. So that's why I stopped working in the media and then decided to be an entrepreneur.
Amazing. So between China and South Sudan, was it more controlled while you were working within the media? Is it more controlled in South Sudan or is it more controlled in China?
I think they both have their levels of control, but you cannot compare the controls because they're two different countries, two different infrastructures, two different economies. So the control there might be the same as the control here, but it's very difficult to compare them.
Yeah.
South Sudan is a new country. It's just a couple of years old, and China has existed for a while. China has a very big scope of population. And so the control, actually, I think the control in China is much more complex compared to South Sudan, because China has specific channels and media that is supposed to be accessed by the locals in China itself, which is contrary to South Sudan. In South Sudan, you can access all international media houses here, and we have the luxury to understand whatever is going on outside. China only has the international media houses, media channels available in hotels, that is 5-star hotels, because they know the kind of people that are going to come to 5-star hotels have been exposed more
to that kind of media. Yes.
Yeah, so they all have their level of controls, but they cannot be completely compared.
Now, while you were doing that, I mean, what was it like with, especially when you came back to South Sudan, what was it like, being a woman in journalism, and trying to, obviously, knowing the kind of person you are from the little you've said, you're not someone who likes to walk within the confines of the box, the narrative that, the media or the society wants you to, stay within. And I find that to be the same as well, because, I like to be me, to do what I want to do. I'll not be confined, because when you see something isn't right, you want to speak about it. And being a woman in journalism, I'm sure you would have probably seen a number of things that you felt you could do something about, or you could say something about. What's your experience, in that regard?
Okay, first, I'm going to ask you, what do you know about South Sudan? Before we jump into that.
I'll be honest, I don't know much apart from the conflict, and I know the fact that it used to be part of the bigger Sudan, and then there's this bit south that broke away. That's my ignorant, understanding of South Sudan. And besides that, I had a guest on my podcast a few months ago, and she did some work in South Sudan. So a lot of what she did in terms of supporting people in conflict and sending resources to them through her logistics work, was based in South Sudan. So that's the little I know. So you can give us a bit more insight and let us know.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking that, I feel like it's one of the questions that I need to ask everybody that tries to interview me.
Yes.
About my entrepreneurial journey, because I feel like the reason that people are that interested in interviewing a South Sudanese woman in business is because of South Sudan itself, because of the narrative that they have about South Sudan. And I know why this is. I also don't blame a lot of them. But I feel like everybody needs to do some work to find out more of South Sudan. I'm actually a bit disappointed that you do not know much about it.
I take that on board. I take that on board. And I wish I did my research on South Sudan a bit more. But please help us correct that false narrative that's being put out there. And as an insider, we'll get to know more. And I promise you, I'm coming to South Sudan.
You better.
I will.
For the reason I'm saying that is I'm going to give what I feel like is a professional, from my professional point of view as a journalist. You cannot totally depend on what the media says about South Sudan because the media can be very sensational. And what I mean by this is if you had put the title of my podcast as interviewing a South Sudanese woman on her entrepreneurial journey, a lot of people would not be so interested. It's like, what's so special about it?
Yeah.
But when you add the touch of interviewing Estella who left Malaysia to come back to South Sudan, now, suddenly everybody is very interested because the media has portrayed South Sudan as just a conflict region, a difficult space to be in. And it's very sad that I know I did a study on the media representation of women in conflict regions. And of course, my case study was South Sudan. And it was very shocking to see that when you type in South Sudan on Google Space or any other platform, all you see is a hungry child or a soldier or women or rape case or something. So it's all just a negative narrative that has been put out there. And I know I was once like the people that take that narrative because I remember before I moved back to South Sudan, anytime somebody mentioned South Sudan, all I thought of is I thought I would just sit and see, a car explode from a bomb or something, or somebody just get shot right in front of me, which is contrary to what is on the ground. Now back to your question,
Before you jump back into the question, what was it that helped you change that narrative about what you saw about South Sudan that got you to say, you know what, I don't care what I'm hearing in the media, I'm going to go to South Sudan, I'm going to go back and do what I want to do?
Well, in my case, unfortunately, it's not what I saw while I was out or what I heard. It was me coming back here. And also, I think there's a contribution of the fact that when you're just away from home, there's a different feeling there's a different experience that we have. I know you might have experienced this while in the UK. You don't feel home. You'll always be the other.
Yes.
You'll always be the alien in the place that you're at.
Absolutely.
And it feels like you lose your identity. So for me, it's like when I came back home, there's just that feeling of being at home, where nobody's pointing at you that, oh, look at that person, look at how she walks. Of course, there's always the usual gossips of who the hell does she think she is. But there's just that feeling of being home. And I know that I get that whenever I came from abroad and I was in any African country. There was this beautiful feeling that I had in me whenever I landed in any African country. It doesn't compare. And so when I came to South Sudan, and I came with a lot of fear, but when I was here, of course, there's the conflicts, there's fighting here and there, and which you can't blame it because it's a country that has been in war for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
So you can't expect it to drastically just move from conflict to total peace. And so there was that, but then I noticed that there was other good things about the country. There's great people. There's such great hospitality in South Sudan.
Yes.
And I know I haven't seen that anywhere else in the world. I know that I've been to places that have the culture of being grateful for whatever experiences. But South Sudanese are very hospitable people, and you will experience that when you come. And anyone else that has been in South Sudan will tell you that. That is not to say that we also have the other side. There's the other side. We have been used to doing things, to dealing using conflict, violence as a way of solving things because we were marginalized for decades in our own country. And so there's still the culture where people feel like I have to use force to get this, or feeling like a foreigner is taking what I deserve, but it's not as much as the hospitality. And so I came back home and I loved it, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world. I can go for visits, but I wouldn't want to settle anywhere else in the world.
Yes. That's amazing. That's amazing. And what you've said there really is the reason why a lot of people, a lot of Africans who are in the diaspora, don't want to go back. And it's also the reason why some have taken the leap and gone back, and you know, not listening to what is being put out there, because it's not just the media, it's also social media as well. A lot of what comes from social media, that I don't use social media for personal things, I just use it purely for business. But some of what I've seen or what has been shared with me have been negative information. And this thing somehow has a way of desensitizing you, towards your own home. Yeah. And, although, yes, I'm here in the UK, but I'll tell you, this is not home to me. I don't feel at home here. It's just a place which
it's
is amazing.
Not the same feeling.
Never be.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same feeling.
Not the same. Yeah. And I'm grateful for all the experiences I'm gathering, because it's put me in a geographic position where I can pretty much see things, from a global perspective, and I feel that yes, home will always be home no matter what.
Yes.
And we just have to. There's negative, there's good and bad everywhere. It's not like there's no bad things. UK is not a paradise. It's not paradise. It's got its bad things as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So jumping back to your question, as a woman in the media space here.
Yes.
How challenging is it, or what is it that made me get out of the media space? First, I'm going to say I'm going to answer that woman not just as a woman. I'm going to answer it as a media practitioner, because when you put me as a woman, I could say a lot more. No.
The reason why I asked that, I get that. The reason why I said as a woman, because I know the inequality. I know that. I'm very well aware, because it happens. I spend a lot of time in banking and finance, and the same things happen here. And the reason why I say woman, because the women are usually suppressed, so that's why I was asking from that perspective. And I get the equality part of things, and as a practitioner of media. But
I see where you're coming from, and I will answer the question of inequality on a different perspective, because it's something I'm also very passionate about.
Fantastic, great.
Yes, as a media practitioner, I feel like the way that the South Sudan media space is in right now is not for me.
Right.
Because it's still controlled for a good reason. Because we have to be able to to change our mindsets to a certain level before we can freely practice media the way it is practiced elsewhere. There is still control everywhere else in the world, but it is to a certain level. There's a progress to a certain level compared to where we are now. In regards to the inequality, one of the reasons that my company is the way it is, my business, which we will jump in, is it's me addressing inequality. Because there's a lot of patriarchal systems in the world, and South Sudan is not any different. Where a woman, we have to work twice as hard to get to the space of a male.
Yes.
But I think it's just about the way we face it. Yes, we acknowledge that it's there in South Sudan like it is anywhere else in the world, but how you approach it is what matters. I feel like you cannot come aggressively. You cannot aggressively try to approach it, because you have to understand that there has been a norm on how things are done. So when you come with changes aggressively, you cannot accomplish what you want to accomplish. So we start slowly. Slowly for me is, employing women, giving her a little bit, empowering her with just a little bit of finances that she can use to help herself, help her child, or, help her family at large. Because I know for sure whenever a woman makes money, it goes back home most of the times. Even if I'm married and I have an income coming in, it's most of the times I'll still be able to help my family. Back home, I'll help my own family. And so it's important. It's important to have women empowered.
Absolutely. And I 100%, agree with you on that. And I'm going to say this, a lot of my successes and the things that women have been influential to a lot of my successes, what I'm doing. And I, would not I would not see things clearly, and I would not probably have achieved some of the things I've achieved if not for some of the women who have been influential in my life and in things that I do. So I'm, really an advocate that there should be that equality, and it doesn't matter. It's not about being male or female. It's about who can do the work, and give you what you give you the outcome you desire. Male, female, and also, what I don't like, which I've seen a lot of, is where certain organizations are. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be if I'm going to be shot because of what I'm going to say now, but a lot of organizations are, putting women in positions of, authority just to fulfill that they are putting that equality is at the top of their agenda. But then when the women are in that position, they're not being allowed to fulfill that responsibility.
No. Yeah,
which
I understand that.
You've experienced that, or have you?
I have experienced that. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, So there has to be that balance.
Yeah, but all these things it takes time. It takes time to see the change happen. It's just that we have to take baby steps towards approaching it. Because if you come aggressively, you crash.
You crash, yeah.
You crash. So we're seeing how to go about that slowly.
Absolutely. Now, from journalism to entrepreneurship, tell us about that. And yes, you go ahead. Tell us about why did you choose to leave that whole space of journalism? You were, obviously getting a steady salary coming in, but now you've gone into, what I call a leveler, because I think entrepreneurship is a leveler. You got to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Now, how have you done that?
Okay, so for me first, it wasn't like a decision to just switch to entrepreneurship. I didn't just sit one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a businesswoman in organic skincare. When I was studying abroad, I used to use like the regular body lotions. Yes. And I noticed that sometimes I get ashy too fast, and then I have to like keep retouching once in a while. And I realized that I wanted to use something that works for me, And so I started getting shea butter from Uganda. I wasn't passionate about it, but I was just getting it because it worked. Like I bought this tin one time and it worked, and I was like, perfect. So I started taking it in bulk for myself. And while I was in the process of using, I had this Nigerian friend, and we used to with Instagram, and we found this lady, the Ghanaian lady, she's called Hamamat, who does shea butter in Ghana, and she said that she learned something from her grandmother.
You can see my beard, my skin, it's all shea butter,
Yeah, I can see the glow. I see the glow through you.
You can see the glow.
Yes, and so she said that her grandmother said she cannot use anything on her skin that she cannot eat. And I remember we used to make fun about it. Like whenever we'd eat something, we would try I cannot put it on my mouth, I cannot put it on my skin. But then when we sat down, it actually resonated because we're so careful about what we eat.
Absolutely.
Like if something so much as looks disgusting, but somebody says it's sweet, you hesitate to eat it.
That's correct.
But you go to the counter and just pick anything. Just pick whatever is available and use it on your skin. We don't know what the ingredients are. We don't know whatever, but we don't care so much. So I thought, why are we so concerned about what we're eating and not what we put on our skin? And yet it's the same. It's the same body.
Yes.
What affects me outside on my skin affects me internally, health-wise.
Absolutely, on the inside, yes.
Yes. So I just started using it, and I remember when I came back home, I asked my grandfather what it was because I was tired of constantly buying from Uganda, and it said it was natural. So I just asked him, I said, can you smell this and tell me what it is? And he told me it's mograk. When he said it's mograk, I know what mograk is. Shea butter is shea oil in Dinka.
The actual oil itself.
Yes. It's shea oil in Dinka. Of course, it still solidifies in cool temperatures, but that's what it is. And it's called Lulu in Arabic. And so he said, this is mograk. And I refuted it because I know that the one that they have here, the one that is prepared locally is prepared mainly for food, but also women in the villages use it for their hair. They use it to bath newborn babies.
Oh,
To strengthen
amazing.
their bones with like very hot water, and then they use the shea oil, rub it all over the baby, and bath them with it. This is supposedly to strengthen the baby's bones,
Amazing.
and with the health benefits that come with shea butter. And so when he told me that was
And then how is it eaten as well? How is it used to cook as well?
it can be used as a cooking oil.
Yes.
But we have this South Sudan meal that is called combo. It's made of greens, and it's prepared of greens and peanut butter.
Yes.
And then either with meat or with dry fish. And so once the meal has been prepared,
yeah, I'm licking my lips already.
I can see that you're a foodie. So once the meal is prepared, usually they'll just like put it on top, like the way you'd put mayonnaise or cheese, and then just eat it with it.
Wow.
So I knew about that. So I actually asked them to bring me a sample.
When I come to South Sudan, please, I'm going to try that.
It's going to be the first thing that you try.
Please.
Yeah, so when I asked them to get me a sample of the shea butter, and they brought it. It was in solid state at the time, but I could still smell it. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was a very unpleasant smell. So I tried to infuse it, but it was almost impossible to get rid of the smell. So I asked him to bring me the raw nuts themselves, and they brought me a kg, and I researched on how to do it. Remember, I've been using it for years, so one way or the other, I was seeing the process, and so I researched on how to actually do it from scratch. And I had this one lady try to do it for me, and it came out, and it was like half of a Coca-Cola bottle, like half of 500 liters. So it was basically 250 liters, and it was clear oil. Yeah. It was beautiful. I was so excited about it. And so when that happened, I asked them to bring me a whole bag, like 50 kgs of the nuts. And they brought them. I remember the excitement that I had when I just brought them and I was putting them out to dry. Then I had it prepared, and so I was using it myself, started gifting it to my friends. Whenever there's something that was going on, I just give it as gifts, because I didn't think about it as a commercial thing. Yeah. I was just, fulfilling a need. And then people liked it. My friends were like, oh, this is really good. And then the fact that it wasn't smelling like the shea butter that they know, it was very exciting for them. So that's when I decided I'm going to commercialize it. And I remember in 2019, October, on the 26th, we officially put the product out. And yeah, so we started with one woman, and then we went on to hire, right now we have about 12 women here. Okay. We have about 21 collection centers in the Lake States, which is where we get our name, AramWeer. AramWeer. Yeah, I asked you about what you know. Word? One word, yes. Aram means a meeting point, and then where means the lakes.
The lakes, wow. So meeting point of lakes.
But it's one word, AramWeer. So in South Sudan, we have a region called the Lake States. You wouldn't know that since you didn't study about South Sudan.
No. You're holding that.
Exactly. I'm holding you accountable to that. Yeah. So you need to see.
I'm sorry, I will.
So one of the reasons that I came up with that name was to help people like you understand where the product is from. Amazing. Because initially I wanted to name it Goddess. I had Goddess in mind. Yeah. Because I was thinking of the female perspective of it. One, I'm a woman that owns the company, and it's women that do majority of the work. And so I have this tagline: "By her, for him, and her." That's the tagline that I want for the company. So I wanted people to think, when you see AramWeer, it captures your mind. You think, what does AramWeer mean? Yes. And then you'll be curious, and then you get a translation, and it brings your attention to South Sudan. That was me thinking as a media perspective. The reason for that is because I told you before that I did the research on the representation of women in conflict regions, and I noticed that there was nothing good about South Sudan on there. And I felt like it was important that we have, like something, even if it's little, one step at a time, but there's some sort of good perspective, like positive representation of South Sudan. So our branding, I'm sure you've checked on the page, our branding has our flag on.
Yes.
And it's AramWeer.
Yes.
So when you see it, you think of South Sudan, and this is something great from South Sudan, which is not what you see on Google or social media. Yeah, so that's AramWeer in a nutshell.
Amazing. That's a beautiful story there. And I love how you fuse everything together. Your experience in media, your experience in developing the shea butter, and also what you do to empower women as well, which I feel is quite amazing. And to have more women there. And, how do you go about, how do you go about finding, those who fit your brand or people that work for you?
Okay, so if in South Sudan and in Africa, most times women are basically just supposed to be housewives.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the rest of us that have had great opportunities of being educated, and we put ourselves in the market out there. So it's the same thing in South Sudan, and I know that the biggest source of employment in South Sudan until today has been the military. We have a lot of soldiers.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, we have a lot of soldiers, and this is simply because, we have been
not men and women, or just
no men, mainly men. We have been in conflict for a very long time, and they had to defend the country one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So if the big population is soldiers, there's a big population of women that are housewives.
Yes, absolutely.
And especially in the area that I live in. The area that I live in has a lot of soldiers, and there's a lot of, women that are housewives. And I didn't want them to basically just depend on their husband's salaries.
Yeah.
I sort of wanted to give back in a way, because I have been privileged. I went to school. I'm able to work for myself. And while fulfilling a need, if I can also help somebody along the way, why not? Yeah. And so my criteria for hiring now is basically wives of soldiers. Now I have about a couple of, teenage moms, but that's not a specific criteria for me. I have maybe about 2-3 teenage moms, yes. But mainly it's the wives of soldiers that are around my area. And in the villages, I don't have a specific criteria for hiring my employees, but I know that we have a big group of older women. Because older women now, they don't do farming, they don't do house chores. So usually they'll just sit there, and the collection of nuts is not like a tedious process for them. So they do the collection of the nuts, they do the shelling, and we have about 32 women and about 12 men who do the logistics part. And yes,
yeah.
So I thought, let me just do something small to help them. And honestly, I can see the change. I can see the change, and you can even see in the attitudes of these women. They're able to, at the end of the month, they're able to take back something. When we have occasions like Women's Day, which is coming up, mm-hmm. or Easter or Christmas, we try to buy them. We try to give them packages of like foodstuffs to take back to their houses, and we have a big. We have different goals in place. I have a bigger vision that if all goes well, I'm able to also help with the schools for their kids.
Amazing.
So let's see how our growth goes.
I can, you are what I call an active risk taker, and
I think business is like that.
Yes. There are two sides. They're the active and the passive ones. We call the passive risk taker those who are risk averse and, take time before they make any decision. But you're just out there, going and doing it. What drives you? What is it? What is that thing that drives you to just go out there and do what you want to do and not staying within the confines of the box that has been defined by the society we live in?
Okay, first, I'm going to talk about the risk aspect part. There's something about business. Business is a risk everywhere.
Absolutely.
But and so when you have to dive in, I usually tell people who ask me, how did you get to do this? Should I do this? I usually tell people, Well, it's a risk, but you have to start. But when you start small. Don't start big. Because the reason I say start small is start small and see, is this business feasible? If it is, then you can carry on to grow. Because when you start small, the losses are not that drastic as they would be if you started, large.
Yes.
Yes, and for me, what mainly governs me is that I'm passionate about this. So I'm passionate about organic skincare and organic lifestyle generally, which takes time. It also takes time. In my case, I know the organic lifestyle takes time. The world is slowly switching to an organic lifestyle, which is, eating all this healthy stuff, making sure that we get into routines such as exercises that help us keep fit and healthy, and it's a process. It's not like a switch overnight. It takes time.
Yes,
like I use shea butter on my skin, on my hair, but occasionally I wear wigs. I still have to use things like deodorants and perfumes, which are not organic.
Yes.
But slowly with time, probably I'll start using an organic perfume or organic deodorant.
Well, you can use. I mean, I use. See, I switched away from the commercial perfumes. Okay, I use more oud now.
Same here.
Yes, I use more of the ouds, because they're not as they're more the purer oils as well. So I don't care about the name brands and all that stuff. I just like to use things that are, a lot more authentic, a lot more natural for my body. So I love the fact that this is what you are promoting as part of your brand, this organic lifestyle. And I'm on that journey with you. So whatever you're doing, please share with me. I will support, I will promote, whatever.
I should become an influencer for an organic lifestyle.
Yeah, you should. I mean, that's what you are. That's who you are. You are. That's what you're doing.
So for me, one, I'm passionate about it. And I also want to empower myself. I do not like to be dependent.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we're blessed with an education is so that you're able to empower yourself and empower others. So I want to empower myself because I want to see myself grow. I want to be able to achieve a lot of things that a lot of women don't have the opportunity to achieve.
Question. Hold that thought. A question. So empowering yourself. Now, this is on the personal side. Yeah. Now, and forgive me if I say as a woman, but So empowering yourself as a woman, do you find that sometimes that you could be perceived or men are intimidated by you? It's a question that's asked, that's said by a lot of women. A lot of women say that because of their successes, they find that it intimidates men. Is that your experience as well?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. Empowering myself as a woman. Okay, first I'm doing it for myself because I don't want to be dependent.
Yes,
I don't want to be dependent on anyone. And I always like to tell people that if any man is intimidated by my success, then that man is not for me.
Absolutely.
Because my empowerment, it does not, let's not get this wrong. My empowerment doesn't mean that I want to completely ignore the cultural aspects. For me, I choose to take to put a balance, combine cultural and modern together. That means I still can do house chores, but I still can go to the office as well. That doesn't mean that I choose to stay at home or completely be, just a working woman and not doing any house chores or any other thing that I'm supposed to do.
I love that.
So I feel like any man that would be intimidated by my success is not for me because the intention is not to intimidate you, and I don't try to intimidate them. They're just intimidated by me. So that's a different thing.
It's their choice, and I think
it's their choice.
It's their choice. And a man, I feel like a real man should appreciate a successful, independent woman who can bring value to the table that both of them can use to chart the course of their journey forward. So it's like a captain and a co-captain, or a pilot and a co-pilot.
Yes, I feel like in the day and age that we're in today, any man should be happy to have a woman that is independent and that is doing something for themselves.
Absolutely.
Because times have changed. times are not like our father's times where we had, we could farm. We didn't need hospitals. We could just go to the garden and get a herb to take care of an issue.
Yeah.
But now almost everything requires money. So there's a need for partners to come together, to join hands, to build together and help each other solve problems. But if the household is going to have one income, one person bringing in the income and the other person is just at home, it's going to be a bit difficult in the time we're in. It's going to be really hard. So I feel like if any man in his right mind would be happy to have a woman that is independent and has things going on with herself.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you, and that is the way it should be. So there shouldn't be room
because at the end of the day, it also reflects on the kind of, like in a marriage, it reflects on the kind of children that you're going to bring up.
Yes. And I love that you said that as well, because you have to be able to educate, your children through your own actions and through the things. When the children see, I have two daughters, when the children see what you're doing, they learn from that as well.
And in the event, okay, if in the event that I decide to stay home or something, it also determines the kind of simple things like the kind of house help that I will employ. Because the kind of house help that I employ should be somebody that can help to educate the children in the way that I would want them to be educated.
Yes.
But if I'm not independent, don't think independently. The kind of house help I employ says a lot about, the kind of ethics that they input on the children.
It's interesting.
So there's a lot of things to think about in that.
It's interesting you touched on the house help, because most, from a Nigerian perspective, most people who have house helps in Nigeria never think about what you just said about the caliber of house help you get. And most of the caliber of house, I'm not saying they shouldn't employ people to help them out of a situation or things like that, but the caliber of house help most people get, is very, all they do is just the chores. They are probably not even educated to the point of being able to impart some kind of knowledge or wisdom into your children. So I like that you mentioned that as well, because I think that's important. Because when you surround yourself with people
in that field, things like courtesy, like when a child picks up a cup, good job, or thank you, or well done, or if they hand them something, thank you. It's just courtesy that passes on between them. That's the simple example I could think of.
Absolutely. So what's the future? What's the future for you? What's the big thing, the big challenge, the big risk you are taking, I know you have it already. I know you have, because from the way you speak, I know that you have you have things planned out. So is this something you can share on this platform? What is it that you are to? And I think a lot of people would love to learn from people like yourselves who have taken that big leap. Because I find that most people are in that thought process, but don't have the confidence to take the leap, to take the action, to start implementing, their journeys in direction of where they want to really go. And they end up staying in a job for as long as possible, and it becomes too late. You haven't left it till too late. You, in your 30s and you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's amazing. So many people want to do that. And I have a few friends who are, who are in that space as well. And I've been thinking I need to do something different, but they don't have the confidence to go and do it.
Now, in my perspective, I think that it is very important to have an employment first. Because for one, it teaches you the discipline.
Yes.
The discipline that I have to be in office at 8:30 and I have to leave the office at 5:30. Mm-hmm. And also the skills that come with working for a person. You learn a lot of things from working with different people.
Yes.
Skills that you would not ordinarily learn by yourself. Like if you're in an office and you don't know how to do Microsoft, somebody else knows how to do it, they can teach you how to do that. You're required to do roles that are outside of your job description. Let's say the HR is not in today and you're asked to step in for the HR. you sort of learn different skills. So it teaches you discipline and it teaches you different skills. It also helps you to get your own capital before you can venture into getting your own into a business, unless you have a trust or some money that you land on, then that's a different thing.
I think that's
but
a lazy way to have money.
For me, I felt like it's important. Like I still work for somebody because it's the same. Like I finance my business by myself.
Yeah.
And at the point that I'm at, I know that if I was to leave my job today, I know that I can pursue my business and it would still flourish, but not to the level that it can flourish when I have the capacity to continue to invest in it.
Yeah.
So I would advise anyone, and to start, we discussed this in the earlier phase, to start, just start small. Whatever it is, don't say I have to wait to get $100. If you have $50, start with the $50, and then you can carry on after seeing that this actually works. Because I know a lot of the young people are still stuck in the collar jobs space. Like I remember when I started doing the share thing, when it was a full-time thing, everybody was like, what the hell is she thinking? How does a person with a master's degree decide to come back, sit home, and do mugrak? Like it just sounds so wrong. Like how is it possible to do such basic things? Because they would expect that these basic things are done by an educated person. But now that people see that that it's picking up, it's an actual business. It's like a shocker for them. So just go out of your go out of your comfort zone and do something for yourself. Start small and persevere, because business doesn't bear fruits overnight.
No.
Like I would say, I am still proud to say that I have not seen profit ever since I started doing the shea butter, because whatever I get, we put it back in the business because I want it to grow.
You know what?
But I see the potential.
Can you please, seriously, this is such an important, point, because a lot of people sometimes have this false notion that once they start business, they put money into it, they're going to get money out of it, straight away, and I love that you just talked about that, because that has been my experience. And when I talk to people about business, the fear they have is not getting their money out quickly. And I always say, listen, you have to give the business at least 3 to 5 years for you to start getting any kind of, real growth, because you're going to have to keep reinvesting that money. It's like building a house without a foundation. You got to put that foundation in, and that's you investing into that business with your income.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I know that. I know that for a fact. But then that doesn't mean get into a business, see that it's not working, and stay there for 2-3 years.
No, of course not.
For me, I see that I see the potential that the business have. I see that the business has, and I also see the shea butter market globally. Mm-hmm. It's the women's gold, as they call it in West Africa. I know the potential.
The women's gold.
Yeah, they call it the women's gold in West Africa, because this is the biggest source of, I think it's the biggest export from Ghana. And Nigeria. Yes. And it's mainly done by women. And so I know the potential that it has, and I'm patient. I'm going to be patient, and I persevere with it. So when you start a business and you see that it works, persevere. Just because you have not seen the profits in the first 2-3 years doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And you also have to dedicate a lot of time to it, because now I can sit comfortably in my office and I know that work is going on in the factory. Mm-hmm. But every day I have to make time to pass by the factory, because there's a certain quality.
Are you in the office now? Because
I'm in the office right now.
That sound, was that coming from the factory behind you?
No, it's coming from, there's some work going on outside.
Okay.
Yes, but so every day I have to take time, because this is my business. Nobody will do your thing the way you want it done. If you want something done, you have to do it yourself. And so I know that if I'm completely absent from it, the quality is going to deter. There's people who are not going to be working the way they should. But that is now. When it started, I had to be there myself. I had to tell the women, no, this is how it's done. This is how it should be done. This is not what should be done. Until I realized that they have understood the techniques that I want. and then I can pull back.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it requires a lot of your personal time before you can sit back and relax.
Absolutely.
And also, since we're talking about the age group, I feel like now is the time. Right now, I have the energy to do 3-4 things together.
Yes.
You know, which will be different in the few coming years. In a couple of years, I will not have as much energy as I do. So it's better to do it now. Now I can do everything and still be okay.
Absolutely.
So just start. I think it's the best thing I could say.
You've shared some really amazing, advice to our listeners. What would you like to be, or how would you like people to know you or to remember you? I know you use the term the organic queen, but really, what do you want people to know about you as a person?
Okay, that's a very difficult question.
I ask difficult questions.
That's a very difficult question, but for now,
okay, for now,
like in South Sudan, with I'm going to speak because of the journey that I'm currently at.
Yes.
In South Sudan, I know that there's a lot of people that have done shea butter before, but they haven't put it in the global space or in the global market. I also know that there's a lot of companies that have bought shea butter from South Sudan but rebranded. So still there's no indication of the state of origin. And that's precisely why I'm very keen on my brand, because I want the brand to reflect where the product came from.
Yeah.
Give to legally recognize the hard work and the natural resources that South Sudan has. So I'd like to be one of the people that actually did a change, had a different perspective put out there, brought a better and positive narrative about South Sudan.
That's amazing.
In the long run, because we don't just want to do organic skincare. We're looking at doing a number of things, but still in the organic range. We want to completely change to an organic lifestyle.
I'm going to put this question a bit differently. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 10 years from now, how would you like people to see you? So if someone says, okay, they've been doing this journey, now, and fast forward 10 years into the future, I'm sure you're going to be doing great things. What is that thing? I see something, but I just want you to say it. I don't know. There's something I'm saying about you having an influence in South Sudan where you're at, because, listen, I can feel the energy. So I'm trying to get an insight into what that is. That's a sneak peek for me,
Maybe the thing I can think about when you ask that question, because like my head is jumbled in all these things thinking. But I would like to think that I was that woman that put myself out there by trying to empower myself. I dragged other women along with me.
Yeah.
And help them change, because I think that just because I've done it, somebody else is also going to do the same. So I would like to be remembered like that.
Do you see yourself in government?
No. Absolutely not.
I love that answer.
Absolutely not.
Do you see yourself working with NGOs?
No.
Why?
Honestly, I don't see myself working. If you say
I don't mean working with them or working for them. I mean, maybe in some kind of partnership or something like that to promote.
Yes, we can do a partnership, but on my terms.
Okay.
Yes, because there's something that doesn't sit right with me with an outsider giving me rules on how to govern my house.
Absolutely.
Because you do not know what goes on in my house. I'm the best person to come up with the solutions on the problems that I have.
Yes.
Like you're in the UK, you cannot understand what's going on in my office right now.
Absolutely don't know what's going on there.
Yes, you cannot know what's going on in my office. So you cannot be the one to come up with the solutions for the issues that I am going through. Mm-hmm. And so how you can help is I tell you that I don't have a computer, my computer is not working well, it's blinking or it's something, and then you can help me come up with a solution for that. Okay. And when it doesn't sit right, I also tell you that. So I don't know about the whole work for the NGOs as yet.
No, that's it's been it's I find getting to know you and what you do and how you are changing lives and influencing people through what you do. I think it's phenomenal. Knowing that you're doing that, you also are also working for someone else as well. It's really amazing. Now, just to wrap things up, share 3 things with our listeners that will help them in their respective journeys, whether it's a professional one, a personal one, or a business one.
The 3 things. One is about you as an individual. First, for you to be able to get anywhere, you need to know that you need to take care of yourself. This means sometimes ignoring everything that, everything going on around you to make sure that you are okay. Because when you're okay, you're able to make decisions and you're able to move yourself to places that you would not if you were not mentally or emotionally okay.
Yeah.
Professionally, which would be also individually, I think sometimes it requires you to get out of your comfort zone. And change can be tough, but it's necessary to be able to move further in life. So make sure whatever you're doing is something that is fulfilling to you, but also able to make a difference in somebody else's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And this is my own question. Everything I've asked was not for me, was for the listeners. But this last one is mine.
Okay.
And this is what I call the superhero question.
Mm-hmm.
I always ask this at the end of every question, every podcast. And out of all the superheroes, fictional, non-fictional, real person, someone who's alive, someone who's dead, which one of them would you say you have something in common with? What is it and how have they influenced you?
Out of all the superheroes, it's a very difficult one.
Fictional, non-fictional, it could be a character, it could be a real person, someone living, someone who's not living anymore.
Okay, when you say that, what comes to my mind is it's like a quote by Nelson Mandela.
Great.
Okay, there's a personal reason as to why this quote stuck with me.
Okay.
And which is, I basically just gave an example when we spoke about whether I could want to work with an NGO or not. Mandela said this in an interview when he was asked about Gaddafi. I'm not sure if you remember the interview, but there was an interview where he was asked about why he was still supporting and being friends with Gaddafi when the West had clearly, put whatever. When the West had a problem.
I think I know this interview you're talking about, but I can't remember the quotes. You know the quotes.
And he said the mistake that they make is that just because you think they have a problem with him, that we should have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that resonated with me, and that's
why. Why is that? Because
I know that a simple thing is the scramble for Africa with the West and the East.
Yes.
And there's a personal attachment that I have to this because there's things like sanctions that are being imposed in South Sudan simply because you've traded with the West or with the East and you've not traded with the West. Or
are those sanctions still on now?
Yes, they're still on. I think there's one that was just renewed, and I feel like the mistake that they have is that they want us to, just because you feel a type of way about an issue, you expect everybody to reason that way. And when they don't reason that way, they're the enemy or they're in the wrong. And I feel like that's very wrong because they don't give people much of a choice, even if they say they have things like freedom of speech or human rights. Because I feel like there's no human right there if you're forcing people to do things that just make you happen.
You know what? That is the most powerful answer to a superhero question ever on this podcast. And I think that is so true and real today. And that's what's happening in the world now. I'm going to bring in this. We know of what's going on in Russia right now.
Yeah.
Everyone is jumping on the bandwagon of the West.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no one is listening to the other side. We all want to be made, or we are being driven to be enemies of. I have a friend who's Russian, and she's been on my podcast. So there are two sides to every story, and you don't expect me to just take what you say without doing my own research. That would be stupid of me. And the question I ask is, the whole world stupid right now to just not think for themselves? So that is such a powerful quote that Mandela, they lived there. And it's not just a quote, it's a fact of life, it's a fact of what's gone on, back then and what's still happening in the world today. So thank you for sharing that. We are individuals and we should be able to think for ourselves.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on the show to share your amazing experience, to share not just your experience, some of the values, some of the insights, the education on South Sudan I got from you this morning.
I think that was the highlight of the podcast.
That was a highlight. Oh my goodness. I need to know more. I need to learn more. And I will be visiting. I promise. I do, owe it to myself to visit parts of Africa that I've never been to before. So South Sudan is definitely right there up. And yeah, you're my host, so you can, we'll be talking anyway. So just stay tuned. Yes. And
thank you so much for having me. It's been a privilege, and it's good talking.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending the time with Estella Malek on this podcast. I hope you have been inspired one way or another to take on that risk you are faced with, whether it's in your personal life or professional life, knowing that on the other side, you have a reward waiting for you if you do the work involved, just like my guest Estella is still doing today. Do you remember those 3 tips she shared towards the end of this podcast? Please save this episode for your use in the future. This information is valuable for everyone, especially if you want to hear from someone as inspiring as Estella to help you take those steps you've been wanting to take. Check out our new shows every week and click the follow or subscribe button to be notified when they are released. I am your host, your risk champ, Chizubele Gudo, here on the School of Risk podcast. Until next time, note this: no risk is too small or too big to take. The only limitations you have are the ones in your mind. Thank you.